Well, you just mentioned, Sherry, about our Wisconsin situation, and I just want to bring this one up just from March 21st, 2025. This is Representative Barbara Dietrich in Oconomowoc, and the Assembly passed bills targeting transgender youth in schools and their medical decisions. It is happening as we speak. The Senate has not voted on their companion bills on these issues, and we are pretty certain that the governor will veto them. And thanks to Fair Maps, we now have a veto-proof representation in Wisconsin, but they're coming fast and furious. So one of the actions I want you to be aware of, there are 796 bills that have been introduced across the country in 2025, just in the last few months. That's according to the Trans Legislation Tracker. In Wisconsin, Wisconsin Council of Churches put out an announcement that there was going to be a hearing on these bills. AB 100, actually 101 was included in there, and 102, 103, 104. Typically, the legislature gives you a day or two of notice about a public hearing, which makes it difficult for people to travel or take off from work or whatever. But on these bills, there was 10 hours of oral presentation at the hearing, and I like something like 10,000 pages of testimony. I was on vacation in Florida at my brother's house and wrote testimony and sent it to the committee. But keeping up with these links that we're sharing with you, Wisconsin Council of Churches, the United Women in Faith, United Methodist Church and Society, are ways that we can stay on top of that. AB 100 bans transgender girls in Wisconsin K through 12 from girls teams. So you have to be on a team of your assigned gender. 102 bans transgender women from women's teams in Wisconsin in these colleges and junior colleges, or the two-year colleges. 103 requires school districts to implement policies that require a parent's written permission for school employees to use names or pronouns different from a student's legal name. So it implies that you have to change a name legally to allow a child to use the pronouns that they are most comfortable with. And AB 104 would ban gender affirming care, including the prescribing of puberty blocking drugs or gender affirming surgery for those under 18. It would also require revocation of a medical provider's license to be providing this care. The legislature also has a way of either putting a criminal ban on doctors, locking us up in prison, $10,000 fines for things that they don't want us to do, like providing comprehensive reproductive care to people. So this is just one more. Again, there are companion bills, and this is the committee that was meeting on March 17th, when there was all this opposition to the bills, but they passed it anyhow. Sherry mentioned Fair Wisconsin. This is what it looks like. I looked up these particular bills are listed. So it shows that Bill 100 passed in committee, and in the Senate, the top part of that's cut off, but it's got the Assembly and the Senate and what's happening and how Fair Wisconsin is voting or not voting for it, anti or pro. You do not have to be present to speak. You can go to the Capitol and sign in. You can send letters to the committee or to your legislator. So there's ways to get your opinion heard on these bills when it comes up. Okay, so that's a little bit about what's happening right now in Wisconsin. Constitutional amendments, let's go back to that. This is very, very important. Every single vote matters. I've already emailed my retired clergy because on Saturday, June let's see. June 7th, there is a retired clergy luncheon. Prior to that, there will be the whole program will be the vote on constitutional amendments. So if you're retired and you come, you can vote, and you can then go to your service and then the luncheon. It's very convenient that it's all together in one morning and into the afternoon. The amendments that were approved by the General Conference in 2024 must be to change the Constitution, and we've heard, must be supported by 2/3 of the voting members of the all annual conferences in order to be ratified. We won't know at the end of our annual conference what we voted. We won't ever find out. Everything will go to one big central place across the world, all the annual conferences, and that composite number of votes has to have 2/3 supporting the changes to the Constitution. You can find out more at this link, wisconsinumc.org/constitutional-amendments-information. There's going to be more coming next week. Lisa's putting some additional information on. I'm part of the delegation for the Wisconsin Conference, and as we have, I think, 18 members, we are putting more information together. We will have information at the laity training prior to annual conference, and there will be a presentation at annual conference. So I will give you another call to action towards the end. Again, ballot 1 is regionalization. That creates equity across the church without privileging one region as the center, the US, and others as peripheries. With regionalization, there's no main region of the church, for all are equal members of God's family, and we would finally have a polity that reflected the theological truth. Ballot 2 is the inclusion of membership. The second of the constitutional amendments would be voted on, and adds gender and ability as characteristics that do not bar church membership in paragraph 4, article 4. Ballot 3 is about racial justice. The complete revision of article 5, paragraph 5 of the Constitution aims to strengthen the denomination's longtime support for racial justice. We still have not only the marginalized group of the LGBTQ plus community, but of our different communities of color, there's communities of ability, so many different things. Ballot number 4, educational requirements for voting rights. This aims to clarify the educational requirements for clergy who may vote for clergy delegates to general conference and jurisdictional conferences. I was lucky enough to go to the jurisdictional conference in Sioux Falls in July. And the speaker there was excellent, pastor at a very progressive church in Minneapolis that I hope to go to next time we go to visit our kids that live up there. So those 2 words on ballot 2 just simply added to that Constitution, gender and ability, that all persons without regard to race, gender, ability, color, national origin, status, or economic condition shall be eligible to attend its worship services, participate in its programs, receive the sacraments upon baptism, be admitted as baptized members, and upon taking vows declaring the Christian faith, become professing members in any local church in the connection. And there's more details online. You can look at the whole ballot. United Women in Faith. I was on the quarterly social action chair meeting for the national office, and all 50 states have a social action coordinator, and we meet quarterly. United Women in Faith has been very much supportive, trying to educate for more structural, racial, and gender equity, and are totally supporting these ballots. And this was just another mention, Love in Action, help ratify constitutional amendments at your annual conference. And we need to talk to the people that are going to be there representing us. I know Gloria Carter, our president, is usually at annual conference, and depending on the policy of the conference, I believe she is a voting member. So we want to say yes to gender and ability in the paragraph for Article 4. So a couple of pledges that's going to be on your survey. I will use the resources from Reconciling Ministries to learn more about the ministry and how to be an ally. I think you've heard enough reasons why we need to pledge to do that. And this is important for June. I will ask my clergy and lay delegate to Wisconsin Annual Conference to support the 4 constitutional amendments approved at the 2024 General Conference. I think at our Social Action Day 2 years ago, someone asked me about, their how you find out they're the lay delegate. And I said, well, you should check with your pastor. So they got back to me and said, well, my pastor said they didn't get the email. They're not going to annual conference and we don't have a lay delegate. Make sure you have a lay delegate because they are representing you as members of your congregation. So please talk to them, encourage them to please support these constitutional amendments. This is just another reminder in your attachments. There is this recent publications with the codes to be able to quickly access some of these educational things with your phone. But Reconciling Ministries has many wonderful resources. So please take a look at your attachments. If you're having problems getting any of them open, let me know. I know that there was a couple of people that told me that their Apple computer wouldn't open one of my links properly. So I sent out the Word document for the survey. So you should be able to open the Word document and put in the answers to your survey, save it, and then email it back to me. We talked a little bit about save the date for July. This is the convocation 2025, and it will be July 25th to 27th with Reconciling Ministries. And Reverend Dr. Alvaran will be there. You can meet him in person. I'm so excited that their whole staff is coming to inspire, ignite, and inform. And this is just, again, a continuation of our learning from today. So mark your calendars. I don't think the registration is open quite yet, but this is coming and it's going to be, I'm sure, absolutely great. And we need this more than ever. Before I put the last video on to close, I just want to tell you some other stories because, we can talk a lot about these words and these the history, but this impacts real people. So I told you at the beginning about my brother and how when he came out and how accepting my mother was. And it's throughout his life, there's been lots of things that have been harmful. First of all, they lost a lot of friends because of HIV/AIDS. And now I know that with some of our federal funding that's not going to go to other countries, that's going to be a bigger problem around the world. He also, when it was illegal in Florida to get married, they finally had to go to New York one weekend. They said they were tired of waiting. They've been together 32 years. They've only been married 12 years. And they flew to New York on a weekend. No family was there. They went to the courthouse. They got married. And what a sad thing that we all couldn't be there to support them. But it was not legal in the state, nor was it legal until I don't know if it's still in the books, but it was illegal to have sex with another man in Florida. It was also illegal to adopt children, and he would have very much loved to be a parent and is a wonderful uncle to all of our children. But it was not legal to be able to adopt children. One time they were in a parking area, and a pickup truck somehow saw them together, and a pickup truck actually drove right into the front of their car. They were also shot at by someone. They won't go to certain states because they know they're hostile to gay men. They've had to be careful of, where they go, who they talk to, and it's been a long, sadly harmful experience, as different people have been so angry and hateful. When I started residency in OBGYN at Mount Sinai Hospital in Milwaukee in 1983, so many, many, many years ago, our chairperson, Dr. Gloria Sardo, had come from Madison to our program to be the chair. Dr. Sardo was doing gender affirming surgery at Madison in the 1980s. And those women, then trans women, came to Milwaukee to have their continuing care with her. And so as a resident, I learned about this. And Sherry mentioned, we don't know how much education we get. Well, I hadn't had medical school education about transgender care, but I learned about it as far back as the 80s. And when I was doing a locums job at Park Street Clinic at UW in 2018, on my schedule was a man's name, and I went and checked it out, and that was a trans man who had just had a hysterectomy, and so I was seeing them for the post-op check, and I was a little afraid because I thought, what if I say something that would be not appropriate or harmful? But I studied the whole medical record and practiced so that I wouldn't get confused about, how I said things. So it's difficult even if you are prepared. There was a woman at my church that after I gave the program at our church, came up to me and said, I just want to tell you, my daughter is a trans woman. And I just don't talk about that very much. So people need support. And they're not sure who's safe to talk to. There's also a distant relative, an in-law that was born a man, and Charles lived as a man until age 66. Very well educated, lived in Madison and cross-dressed on weekends, loved the opera and the ballet. And at 66, finally went through gender affirming surgery, and including having vocal cord surgery and orchiectomy, removing the testes. There was a lot that that person went through and became Elizabeth. And it's so sad to me that someone lived in a body and gender that they were not comfortable with their whole lives. That family, the parents were very, very strict Lutherans, and that Elizabeth could not talk about it to her family at all until after everything had been, she had gone through the surgery. But what a very sad situation to have to wait that long to be the person that you knew you were supposed to be. A week ago, I was at the 50501 rally in Milwaukee, and I had my collar on that I got at General Conference. So after we passed the vote on the constitutional amendment at General Conference, the next morning they were giving out these collars, and I wore it to the rally. A woman came up to me and she was crying. And she said, I just need to tell you, I'm so happy to see this because I just brought my 39-year-old daughter to Milwaukee to move here for her job. And she's a trans woman. And I have no idea how Milwaukee, what the environment is here. And I'm really afraid for her. And just seeing that made her feel better. And she hugged me. And we cried together. So I'm sorry about that, but it can be so helpful to people when they know that we understand that we're loving, that we're accepting, and we can become that church. So I'm gonna just check the chat one more time, because if there's any questions, we want to make sure we have those questions answered. Okay. Izzy says the registration is open for the convocation, and it's in the chat, and I will also send that out with the additional materials. And let's see, what else do we have here? Regarding lay members and annual conference registration, after church conferences, each church was supposed to use the church dashboard to enter the names and email addresses of leaders. If we don't have a current or accurate email for your lay member, that's why the email might not be arriving. If unsure, check with the district office. So yes, I understand that. When I became our church delegate, it was well after that thing came out, but it all happened. And right now we're filling the position for our second one. But what I was referring to was actually the minister said they had not gotten the email and they weren't going to annual conference. And my understanding was that that's a requirement of our pastors in Wisconsin. Let's see what else. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. It is 11:56. Thank you again for participating. Again, we really outdid our expectations. 171 registrants and 18 churches that were hosting watch parties. This was a wonderful day. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Alvaran, and thank you, Dr. Sherry Warren. You were incredible and inspiring. And here's
Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide.
No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side.
the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide.
No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide.
Apologize for the breaks in that. If I touch my screen in any way to check the chat, it stops it. Okay, so 2 more messages here. Okay, if no one has any further questions, thank you all for being here. I wasn't sure if people would be leaving during the song, so thank you for staying to hear that. I just love that song, and it was sung so many times at general conference at different churches that I was at. It was quite powerful. And I will send you more information. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Thank you all.